January 2024. The United States national debt crosses $34 trillion. Not billion, trillion. A number so large that if you spent $1 million every single day since the birth of Christ, you still wouldn't have spent $1 trillion yet. And here's the part nobody mentions. It took America 200 years to accumulate its first trillion in debt. It took us just 12 years to add the last 10 trillion. The acceleration isn't slowing, it's getting faster. Every American alive right now owes roughly $100,000 as their personal share of that debt, newborns included, and not a single one of them voted for it. American debt isn't a partisan issue, it's a math issue. Republicans added to it, Democrats added to it. Every president since Eisenhower has left office with more debt than they inherited, and every Congress has funded programs while refusing to raise the taxes to pay for them. The dirty secret of American politics? Debt is popular, because debt lets politicians promise everything and bill nothing. Tax cuts, social programs, military spending, infrastructure. Just charge it. Kick the consequences down the road. Let someone else figure it out. And someone will have to. The question is who and when, and whether the reckoning destroys us quietly or all at once. Let's start with how government debt actually works, because most people think it works like household debt. You borrow, you pay back. Simple. It's not simple. The U.S. government runs a deficit when it spends more than it collects in taxes. To cover the gap, it sells treasury bonds, essentially IOUs. The government promises to pay back the borrowed amount plus interest over a set period, 10 years, 30 years, sometimes shorter. Who buys these bonds? Everyone. Foreign governments, American pension funds, insurance companies, mutual funds, individual investors, and crucially, the Federal Reserve itself, which is a whole separate problem we'll get to. For decades, Treasury bonds were the safest investment on Earth, backed by the full faith and credit of the United States, which meant backed by the most powerful economy and military in history. Buyers lined up. Demand was endless, and America could borrow at historically low interest rates. This worked because of a feedback loop. The dollar is the global reserve currency. Countries need dollars to trade. They buy treasury bonds to park their dollars safely. America gets cheap financing. The world gets a stable reserve asset. Everyone benefits. But this loop depends on trust. Trust that America will always pay. Trust that the dollar holds value. Trust that Washington is competent enough to manage its own finances. And lately, that trust is being tested. In 2023, Fitch Ratings downgraded U.S. credit. Not to junk, but the downgrade happened. America, the country that sets the global financial standard, getting marked down for fiscal mismanagement. It would have been unthinkable 20 years ago. Here's where the numbers become genuinely alarming. The U.S. government currently spends about $6.5 trillion per year. It collects about $4.5 trillion in taxes and revenues. The gap? $2 trillion. Every single year. Just added to the pile. Now factor in interest, because when you borrow $34 trillion, the interest payments are monstrous. In 2024, the U.S. government paid over $870 billion in interest on its debt. That's more than the entire defense budget, more than Medicare. The second largest line item in the federal budget is just paying the interest on past borrowing. And it's climbing fast, because when interest rates went up in 2022 and 2023, old low-rate bonds matured and had to be refinanced at new, higher rates. The average interest rate on U.S. debt is rising toward 5%. Applied to $34 trillion, that's $1.7 trillion in annual interest payments coming soon. The Congressional Budget Office projects that by 2034, interest payments alone will consume nearly 20% of all federal revenue. not the debt, just the interest. America essentially working 1 day a week just to service past debt. And here's the deeply uncomfortable part. The three biggest spending categories are Social Security, Medicare, and defense. Combined, they represent nearly 70% of the federal budget, and they're also politically untouchable. No politician cuts Social Security, no politician guts Medicare, no president slashes defense, so the debt grows. So who actually holds this debt? Who does America owe? Let's break it down. About $7 trillion is held by foreign governments and institutions. Japan is the largest foreign creditor at over $1.1 trillion. China holds around $860 billion, down from over $1 trillion a few years ago. They've been quietly reducing. The United Kingdom, Belgium, Luxembourg all hold significant amounts. About $6 trillion is held by the Federal Reserve itself, which bought treasury bonds during quantitative easing. Essentially, the government borrowed from itself, which sounds clever until you realize it created inflation. The remaining $21 trillion is held domestically. Pension funds, insurance companies, banks, mutual funds, individual investors through savings bonds and retirement accounts. So when America can't pay, it's not just foreign enemies who suffer. It's your pension, your 401k, your grandmother's treasury bonds. American debt is so deeply embedded in the global financial system that a true default wouldn't just hurt Washington, it would detonate the entire financial world. And that's exactly why it keeps growing, because the consequences of stopping are too catastrophic. So we keep going. Borrowing today, promising tomorrow, hoping the math eventually fixes itself. The optimistic view is that American debt is manageable, that as long as the economy grows faster than the debt, it's sustainable. That view has a problem. It assumes growth rates that we haven't consistently achieved. The CBO projects average growth around 1.8% annually. The debt grows faster, so the ratio worsens. The other argument is that America can always print money to pay its debts. True, but printing money causes inflation, and inflation is a hidden tax. When the government inflates the money supply to service debt, your savings lose value, your purchasing power shrinks, you pay without a bill arriving. That's what happened in 2021 and 2022. Government stimulus, quantitative easing, trillions created, and ordinary Americans saw the highest inflation in 40 years. Groceries, rent, gas, everything cost more. That was the debt being paid, just invisibly. The hardest truth, there are only 4 ways out of a debt crisis: grow your way out, inflate your way out, cut spending dramatically, or default. America has been trying the first 2 for decades. The third is political suicide, and the fourth would be global catastrophe. So we keep choosing between bad and worse and calling it fiscal policy. If America's debt trajectory doesn't change, the consequences unfold in slow motion but land hard. Interest rates stay elevated because the government constantly competes for capital in bond markets. That means mortgages stay expensive, business loans stay tight, economic growth stays sluggish. Internationally, creditors start demanding higher yields to compensate for perceived risk. Japan is already rethinking its treasury holdings. China has been selling. As foreign demand weakens, America has to offer higher returns. Higher returns mean higher deficits. Higher deficits mean more debt. The spiral tightens. And politically, it poisons everything. Every budget negotiation becomes a hostage situation. Every spending decision forced through the lens of a fiscal crisis that neither side admits is a crisis. Government shutdowns, debt ceiling standoffs, brinksmanship that spooks markets and damages credibility. The debt ceiling itself is the perfect symbol of American fiscal dysfunction. Congress passes spending that creates debt. Then Congress votes separately on whether to allow the debt that their spending created. It's like ordering an expensive dinner, eating it, and then refusing to pay the bill while debating whether you're allowed to pay bills. And internationally, allies notice. If America can't manage its own finances, can it be trusted to manage the global financial system? That question is being asked in Beijing, in Brussels, in Riyadh, and the answers are starting to shift. So who pays for America's growing debt? Ultimately, everyone. Foreign creditors through geopolitical leverage they slowly lose over America, American taxpayers through higher rates, reduced services, and persistent inflation, future generations through a bill they never agreed to. But most of all, the people who pay are the ones without options, without lobbyists, without political connections, the people who can't move wealth offshore, can't hedge inflation, can't negotiate their tax burden, the ordinary person who just lives and works and hopes the system holds together. The debt isn't just a number, it's a choice, made